Hello, welcome back to Outlandish Claims, everyone. Mike is really happy. He gets to be the nerd for the day because there's no Geo to steal his thunder. Mike, all the questions are for you because as Mills just said, I can just sit there and nod along and pretend like I know what's going on.
No. I said I could BS my way through this like Roger Clemens through a congressional hearing.
Right, yes, that's what you said. Yes. Thank you for saying it the correct way. Beautiful. So, I mean, there's really nothing to say here. There's no lead-in necessary. It was 2-0 Phoenix. I almost said Sixers. It was 2-0 Phoenix. Now it's 3-2 Bucks, and they're going home for Game 6. What happened?
Well, first off, you said the Sixers because Doc Rivers has a notoriously bad habit of blowing big leads, as do the Sixers. So that's why. But nonetheless, I mean, I'm wearing this Phoenix Suns Steve Nash jersey that I did in an infamous trade with Gio Mio. I gave him my Kobe Bryant jersey for a Steve Nash Phoenix Suns jersey in return, and then a Tracy McGrady Rockets jersey. One of the most even trades in the history of all jersey trades. I'll tell you that right now.
I'm just jealous that you have a Tracy McGrady jersey.
Yes, I do. I have two of them. Anyways, one from the Raptors, one from the Rockets. What has happened is that we have seen the complete and utter assertiveness and dominance of one Giannis Antetokounmpo. I mean, let's just go down the stat line for this series. In games 1 and 2, both losses, 20, 17, and 4, then 42, 12, and 4. The last 3 games, 41, 13, and 6, 26, 14, and 8. And then you follow that up with another 32-piece 9 and 6 yesterday. I mean, my God, yo. So when you have that, combined with the fact that Chris Middleton gives you 29 points after he just gave you 40, combined with the fact that Drew Holiday gives you a 20-point double-digit assist, near triple-double, and is putting the locks down on Chris Paul, despite Chris Paul having 21 and 11 yesterday. You have a Bucks team that has no fear, man. They have no fear. And we have made excuses to this point as to why they're here. We've talked about, Miami wasn't as great as they once were last year. Brooklyn, healthy, demolishes them. I think we all believe that to be true, but it didn't happen because they weren't healthy. Atlanta, yeah, they're running up against a soft opponent. They should win. Regardless of what happens, and I still, believe it or not, have the Suns winning Game 6 and coming back and winning in 7. But this Milwaukee Bucks team has proven something. And more importantly, what they've proven is that Drew Holiday investment, that paid off. Because not many players give up multiple draft picks, multiple key players like an Eric Bledsoe in that rotation to get a guy who many believe to be one of the most underrated point guards in the league, but also one of the more underappreciated point guards in the league. Not many teams go and get a guy like that and then go to the finals the next year. This has the potential in recent memory to be one of the most impactful trades in NBA history if it turns out to result in a championship. And think about it like this. The last time that the Bucks won the championship, who did they make a trade for at the beginning of that season? To pair with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, then known as Lou Alcindor? A point guard, Oscar Robertson.
Another reason why the Suns aren't performing up to the level is, and Chris Paul has been nothing short of great this finals. I think we can all agree to that for sure. But he's not scoring like he did in Game 1. You can't expect that from him every single night. Like there was talk 2 weeks ago when Game 1 started that, yeah, Chris Paul's going to score like this every – No, Chris Paul can't go off like that every single night. He's an assister. He's a passer. Like he's always played his game like that. And when you got Devin Booker and him in the backcourt, Booker's going to go off every now and then, but I can't expect it consistently. Yeah, it really boils down now to, and I think Game 6 is really going to be heavy on this because the Bucks are going to look to play. They don't want this going 7. If this goes 7, Chris Paul's got to. He's going to come back. He's going to say, "Yep, this is mine." He's going to have like a Dwayne Wade type performance.
So, the question then becomes,
Okay.
how does each team win? What do the Bucks have to do to win this either tomorrow or in Game 7? What do the Suns have to do to win this in 7?
Well, the Bucks have to feed off the energy of that home crowd because that home crowd is going to be outrageous. And what I'm hoping for, and I knock on wood as I say this, that both teams are at full health, meaning that nobody has to enter health and safety protocols. Because again, despite the magnificent progress that we've made with the coronavirus, there are some people that still don't want to get vaccinated. And so this thing is still spreading. But that's besides the point. Assuming everybody's at full health, which I think we expect them to be, which is a good thing, the Bucks need to feed off of that home crowd because that Deer District is going to be bumping on Tuesday. And so what that means on the court is that they obviously need to put the hands in the best in their best players' hands, Giannis for the first 3 quarters, and then let the combination of Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton lead them to the promised land towards the end. That's the formula that's worked. The Suns, they get back to Game 7 if Devin Booker drops over 40 points and Chris Paul has a 25 and 10 type of performance. I would go even as farther to say that the Suns probably need at least 30 from Chris Paul. So that would put them at 70 points combined in their backcourt. Because when you look at the fact that DeAndre Ayton, even though he's going to get a max contract, he thrives off of that pick and roll action that both of those guards create. When both of those guards are running off of those pick and rolls set by Ayton, it opens up the shooters, that being Mikal Bridges, the Cam Johnsons, the Jay Crowders of the world, right? And then lastly, what Phoenix really needs to do is DeAndre Ayton needs to stay out of foul trouble. Because once DeAndre Ayton goes to the bench, that's when the Phoenix Suns collapse.
Yeah, actually, I was gonna say this is gonna boil down to a bench, a real bench and depth aspect to the Game 6 and 7. But I fully expect Chris Paul and Devin Booker. When's the game? Monday night?
Tuesday.
Tuesday night. I fully expect them to. They have no choice because their backs are against the wall. But they're going to come out balling. And another reason that why the Suns really need what they need to do to win is they need those 2 to score. You look at the first 2 games of the the first 2 games of the series, they won those 2 games because Devin Booker and Chris Paul went off.
I'd like to follow up that question with another one. This one's specifically for Millz. Did you take steroids, Mr. Clemens?
No, I did not.
What does it mean for the loser of the finals? Now, granted, the Phoenix Suns, I don't know much about basketball, as we all know, and as aliens probably know at this point. But I think we can all agree the Phoenix Suns probably outshot where they were expected to be this year.
By a landslide.
Yeah.
The Bucks, however, have long been expected to be here.
Yes.
And this is the first time they've gotten here with this group. So, first of all, is it safe to say that the outcome is going to be far worse for the Bucks if they lose than if the Suns lose, not just because they're up 3-2 and they would have choked away that lead, but because of the fact that it's been 5 years now and they've done nothing? Or are both teams in an equal world of trouble should they lose?
Mike, do you mind if I go first here?
By all means.
So for the Bucks, if they lose, it's going to look really bad, considering the Suns were never projected to be in this position. But it looks especially worse because you got through the Eastern Conference and the road was paved for you. The Brooklyn Nets, when healthy, they're probably not losing to the Milwaukee Bucks. And I think everybody in the basketball world can agree to that. And I think even it's some years down the line, when Giannis is writing a memoir or something, he might say that Brooklyn series would have been different if it was all 3 of them on the court healthy at the same time. So for the Bucks, if they lose it, complete travesty. I wouldn't be shocked if Giannis asked for a trade. For the Suns, if they lose, it's a lot easier to accept the loss when you were never projected to be there. You count your blessings if you're a Suns fan. If you lose, if you're the Bucks, it's terrible.
So I'm actually going to respectfully disagree. And it's not because of the reasons you said. First, the one thing that we both agree on, and I think, Adam, you would agree with this too, is that whoever loses this series probably isn't the favorite to get back to the finals next year. Neither one of them are going to be the favorites to get back to the finals next year. Not with a healthy Lakers and Clippers in the West. Denver, Utah still there. And then, we'll see what happens with like the Portlands of the world. And the Dallases of the world, among other teams, and Golden State. Oh my God, the West is just loaded. And then in the East, I mean, it's going to be Brooklyn and Philly that ultimately come back and are expected to battle for that Eastern Conference crown. But I want to touch on what Millz said, but take it from an alternate point of view. The Bucks should have been here a couple of years ago. But the reality of the situation is that from a timing perspective, their window is actually longer and wider than the Phoenix Suns. And here's why. When you look at the core players of each rotation, Giannis is only 26. Drew Holiday just turned 31. Chris Middleton's 29. Those guys are not that old. And for Giannis's sake, you could honestly make the argument that he's not even in his prime yet, as ridiculous as that is. I mean, right? A guy that averages 28, 12, and 6 is not in his prime yet. I'm sorry. But alternatively, when you look at the Phoenix Suns, obviously Devin Booker is young. He's 24. DeAndre Ayton is young. He's 22. Mikal Bridges is young. Cam Johnson is young. All of those guys are young. Chris Paul is 36 years old. This is Chris Paul's best opportunity to win a championship in the history of his career. And if that doesn't happen, what does that unleash in terms of what's to come for this offseason? Because we presume that the Phoenix Suns will and should sign Chris Paul. But do they? Do you give max dollars to a guy that's going to be 37 and has shown signs of slowing down when it comes to later in the season? The stakes are pretty much right there in terms of winning it now. It's just that the Bucks have a bigger window in terms of when they can, for Giannis's sake.
All right. Well, we will close out with some quick trade predictions, some quick trade OCs. I got some from Gio here to get you guys started on some thought processes. His predictions are Damian Lillard to Philly, Colin Sexton to the Knicks, and Kevin Love to Golden State.
And if Colin Sexton goes to the Knicks, I want 2 years first picks.
Oh man! I mean, can you ship Frank Ntilikina out in a deal?
I'll take it. I'll take it. Yeah, anything to get us in the lottery next year. I'm cool with that.
Yo, listen. Whoever, if the Knicks, I'll give you a trade. I'll give you an outlandish claim. If Frank Ntilikina gets traded from the Knicks, they're going to the Eastern Conference Finals next year. Okay. If Frank Ntilikina gets traded from the Knicks, they're going to the Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, I think that Gio's prediction.
Heard it here first. NBA Eastern Conference. If you want the Knicks to suck, stick them with Ntilikina or however you pronounce his name.
Exactly.
I love watching Millz react to me trying to pronounce Ntilikina's name.
No, I mean, those are all good trades. I mean, Kevin Love isn't the guy that he once was, so I don't know if that classifies as a blockbuster in terms of moving the needle for the Warriors. I think that Damian Lillard to either Philly or potentially a Golden State is interesting. Any place he goes would require a haul in return, and the conversation becomes who has those assets. You could argue Golden State. Maybe you could argue Miami. Maybe you could argue Philly with Ben Simmons if they get interesting there. But outside of a couple of other teams, I don't know if there's a really big market for him, given how much you would have to give up in return. And then one other player that we're going to have to watch, or two other players, is that backcourt in Washington. So Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, actually, I'm looking at that Kevin Love deal. I do think he is a guy who could be traded this year, especially considering, the Cavs need the picks. They need to rebuild, obviously. And I think the Miami Heat are actually a pretty decent contender for Kevin Love. I think he fits nicely into that rotation. Udonis Haslem ain't getting any younger. That we know. So I really do think Kevin Love in Miami would be a really good fit. I also think he would be a decent fit in a place like Boston. So I'm expecting Kevin Love to be traded. If he's not, then the Cavs haven't done their job. But I'm also waiting to see what this finals tells us, because if Chris Paul decides to go somewhere else, then that could change the trade market. If Giannis, like I said before, if he's had enough because they haven't gotten to where they need to go to, if he wants a challenge, go to another team in the East or a team in the West, who asks for a trade? Changes this so much, because there's a lot of people that we don't know are unhappy yet who are going to be unhappy in a week.
Another situation to look at, since you talk about happiness, how long does Donovan Mitchell stay in Utah, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And especially teams would be willing to jump at the bit.
Yeah. I mean,
Donovan Mitchell.
Dwayne Wade aside, if Donovan Mitchell wants up out of Utah, look out.
Well, that will do it for us today. We'll be back tomorrow with the NHL and some expansion draft previews, predictions, outlandish claims, and everything. New guest host along with me. Someone you've never seen before. It's going to be fun. Make sure you stay tuned. Thanks for watching. We'll see you then.